It's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video, and today I wanted to talk about UVDesk. Now, UVDesk is an open source help desk support ticketing system. Now, in the past, I did one on some mod. Somebody had requested that I do that, and I've used it a little bit more since then, and it's got some amazing capabilities. So if you've not checked out that video, go check it out as well. It's ZAMMAD. It has some really cool stuff, but so does UVDesk, and I was kind of looking for some help desk software that I wanted to use with some clients recently, and I started thinking, let me look around and see what else is out there. This could be interesting for my viewers as well as myself. So I came across this one and just thought, this is definitely worth a video. So we're going to go through how to install UVDesk, and we're also going to talk about how it functions, some of the setup that goes into it and things like that. But really, it's one of those tools where you just have to get on it and dig in a little bit if you really want to understand it. Now, when you come to their main page, which I'll have this linked as well as the other sites that I show you linked in the description. But when you come to this main page, you'll see up here at the top, it's going to have open source. And this is important because we want to make sure that we've got all of the information that we need set up and ready. So when you click up here, you can actually get to a couple of other pages, and one of them is the open source site for UVDesk, which will take you here, and there's GitHub link, there's a live demo link, so you can go check it out and see what it's all about. And then they also have their download link. So when you click on the live demo, I just kind of want to show you what happens there. It's going to bring you to their site. It's going to say, I'm not a robot. You have to go through this process, of course, the first time, just to make sure that they're not getting spammed and things like that. It's going to say copying the necessary files. It's going to basically create a little setup for you to try out as part of the demo. So what I like is they tell you the normal demo setup time is 15 to 30 seconds and the lifetime of your demo is 60 minutes. So this isn't going to be a system that gets set up and it's there for you to use forever. And after 60 minutes, the whole system is going to be reset. And then the next time somebody clicks on demo, it's going to go through this setup process again. So they do this on purpose so that you don't just sit there using up their server space. They want you to self-host this thing if you're going to use the open source version. Now, just like any open source project that I talk about, UVDesk does have methods of making money. So if you're using this for a professional business and you think to yourself, man, this is great, I really want to get some support on it, I want to make sure that my requests go to the top of the list, things like that, you might give them a call, talk to them about, how does this function for me as a user of your software? What can I pay for? What kind of support options do you have that I can get? And I think overall, that's the best way that they can support the open source portion of their software, is to have offerings and services like that. So get out there and check that out as well. So here's the demo site. Before we get into it, we're going to talk real quick about my patrons. I really appreciate so much your support on Patreon. I appreciate all of my subscribers on YouTube. It just makes such a difference to me that you guys feel like my content is worthwhile, and I just cannot say thank you enough. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for supporting me. If you'd like to support me and you don't yet, jump over to patreon.com. I have links in the descriptions and in the show notes, and I appreciate it. Thank you again. All right, we're going to jump into this demo here, and we're going to kind of check out what this looks like, and then we'll get into the installation if you're interested on how to install this. So when it first comes up, it says, how can I help you? And you can enter a keyword to search by. So if I just say help, it's going to go out and look. It's going to say, contact our team, contact us, search results for help. I mean, it's not going to give you a lot, right? Like, that's not a good search, but it's just to give you an example of what this looks like when you do that. So if we go back to here, they have a contact us and they have a sign in. They have home, they have blog, they have all kinds of links. So we're just going to do sign in here. Let's go to sign in. So it's already got it filled in for us. And it's customer@demo.com. So you're going to see this kind of from the customer side. It's going to log you in and let you see what tickets you have, and it says welcome to UVDesk. So we can click on this and kind of dig in a little bit more, and I can get rid of this because I don't want to save that on my password manager. It's going to show you kind of what this looks like and what's going on. So I'm going to zoom this up a little bit because I know some of you guys watch this on your phones. But if we scroll up here, you can see the ticket information, how many replies there are. So there's no replies yet. The timestamp, so when this thing was created, which was 5:15 p.m. Apparently, this is not the correct date, so don't take this to be. This is just something they stuck in for us for basic system maintenance or for demoing. And then we've got the status, which is open, and the type, which is support. And then it's got collaborators, so you can list people if you need to. And right here, you can see that demo customer says, whatever their problem is, they can type this out and they can basically submit the ticket. And then you have the options here to say kind of, how do I want to deal with this? So you can write a reply and you can say, CC or BCC somebody on this reply. And then you can put in the information for them if you want to. And then you can also write the reply. So you can say, we've been looking into this issue and it appears to be a bug. We expect a fix no later than next week. You can add attachments, all those kind of things, and then of course you can hit reply. You do have some drop down options as well. You can do submit, and close. Kind of up to you how you do that. So you're going to enter your reply there. The customer can see that. You could BCC people on it, and then you have another option to add another reply. So you can rate the support. Now this is me acting as the support person. Really, I'm the demo customer, right? So I might not want to put that as the customer. Might want to put, hey, got some video of the issue and I'm attaching it. And then they would click on add attachment, which opens up your system file explorer so you can pick attachments and then add those things to the system. And then you can say select, and there you go. You can see the attachment. So when you hit reply, it's going to try to attach that. Now I'll get rid of that because I don't want to junk up their system. But there you go. Really simple, really great. It's got some nice, just simple editing tools to make things kind of easy. So anything you'd expect from an editor in a modern web application. And then you can say, oh wait, I want to go to the admin login. I don't want to be a customer. I want to be the admin. So they do have your admin login as well. So this is what it looks like when you're the actual person working on the help desk. You're not the customer. So we're just going to click on sign in. And again, I don't want to save it. And I'll get rid of my password managers here. And this is where you come to your dashboard. So it's pretty nice. It's laid out pretty well and pretty clean. And there's a lot of really cool features. Now, with their online version, you get some extra things, as you would expect, because their online version is the version that people pay for and that they support more frequently. But they do push those changes out to the open source version over time. So the open source version lags behind the online version a little bit. But that's one of the benefits you get for paying for their service, is that you get things a little bit sooner. You get to have a little bit more input on what's going on. But you'll eventually get it in the open source side as well, just from what I can tell from all of their responses to people asking for certain features. So if we just start from the bottom at the settings, that's kind of where I like to start with these things. You can change the branding, so you can kind of white label this thing a little bit. So you can say, what does the help desk look like? What does the support center look like? You can basically put your colors, and you can rename it so it doesn't have to be support center. It could be something else. So if you go out here to GitHub, you can really I'm going to zoom this in. You can see exactly what they've got and what's going on with development. And you can see they're getting started, about, features, documentation. Just all kinds of great information out here that you can check out. So as you go down, you can just kind of scroll through these things. Documentation, there's requirements. So 1604 or higher, which you should expect to use higher than this these days because this is no longer in support. You should be running 2004, 1804 at the latest. For long-term system releases, but definitely at least 1804. Win 7, again, probably shouldn't be using Win 7 anymore. These are some fairly old documentation pieces, I'm sure. Apache, Nginx, the RAM, 3 gigs or higher. That's pretty low, so that's pretty nice. PHP 7.3 or higher, so, you can kind of check out all of the different things that they asked for here. So the installation process is broken down into 2 distinct steps, setup and configuration. Well, that's great. So let's just go on down, and we're going to keep getting down here. They've got the configuration, and then here they have Docker runtime. So if you want to Dockerize your help desk support, you can click right there. It's going to bring you over to the page that tells you how to build the image from the source. So this is not their pre-built image. This is building the image from source. And then basically you've got some different settings that they want you to use for MySQL, and they want you to set up MySQL, and then they want you to come down here and set up their stuff. So what I did was I kind of took it and said, why am I doing this in 2 separate steps? Why don't I just create a Docker Compose that includes MySQL and the stuff that I need for their application? And why am I going to build the image? I'll just go grab one from somebody that's already built it out there on Docker Hub. So that's what I did. So we'll kind of go through what my setup is here now. So I'm going to open up my terminal. And you can see here I've got it. I'm already logged into the server that I want to use, and I'm in my Docker folder. This is how I keep things organized as I set up a Docker folder. So I'm going to show you, I don't have UVDesk here yet. I have Zamod over here, but not UVDesk. So I'm going to create a new folder called UVDesk. Now we'll do an ls, and you can see there's my UVDesk folder right there. I'm just going to cd into that, and you can see it's empty, so we'll clear this out, and I'm going to do nano docker-compose.yml. So that's going to bring up basically an empty text editor, and I'm just going to grab my Docker Compose file and paste it in here, and then we'll go through it. Alright, so we're going to look at this from the Docker Compose perspective here, and that is version 3. So I just set version 3 on this thing. Services, DB, which is just, I'm using a straight up MySQL 5.7 image. And then I set up a volume to store my database. This volume is important so that if you migrate this thing, or if you stop the container, or you get rid of the container for some reason, when you bring up a new version of the container, the data is still there. This is what persists the data between container updates and things like that. So it's important that you set this up. Now I'm creating this inside of ./UVDesk/DBData, which means I've got a UVDesk folder. That's over here, and then inside of that it's going to create another UVDesk folder, and then it's going to create a place called DBData, and that's going to be mapped to the container, which is /var/lib/mysql, which is where my data is going to be stored. So you can change the left side of this. If you don't like where this path is, this is the path on your host system, you can change that. The right side of the colon you should never mess with. Unless you know what you're doing and you're a developer, don't change this. Restart always, which means if something happens, if it crashes, if I reboot the server, whatever, restart this container. The MySQL database is UVDesk. The MySQL root password. This is a placeholder that tells you make a strong password for this thing. The MySQL user, you can leave this as UVDesk, or you can change it to your name or whatever. And then the MySQL password. This is not the same as the root password. This is the password for this user. And again, change me to something strong, okay? So make sure to change these two passwords to really strong passwords. Make them different. The root password and the user password should not be the same. And then as you come down, we've got, after the DB, we've got UVDesk. So we're going to use this one right here, which is the UVDesk company. And we're just basically going to grab this thing, and we're going to use their latest version. And then we're going to say, you know what, this depends on the DB, which is this image up here. So basically this container has to have this container. That's what I'm saying right here. This container needs to start first, and then this one can run. TTY, true, environment. So right here, these need to match what you have up above. So if I go up here, let's see if I can do it without everything jumping. No, I can't. So on the database name, it needs to be UVDesk unless you change that. The root password has to match, the user has to match, and the user password has to match. So when you come down here, they're not in the same order. You can change the order if you want to. I may do that before I post it, but just pay attention. The MySQL user is UVDesk. This matches what I have up above right now. Of course, I'm not going to leave that. This matches for the root password that I have up above right now. Of course, I'm not going to leave that. And this matches the database name that I have up above. So as long as whatever you have in the first section matches these things in the second section for the same label here, you're going to be fine. Next, we have the port mapping. So this thing wants to run on port 80, which this is the container side. Never change the right side of the colon. But on the left side, if you say, you know what, 80 is taken on my system, I can't use 80, which I can't. You can change this to anything you want. So I'm going to change this to be 85, maybe 5, 85, and we're going to do 45. So we're going to change this to 8545, and that's going to map to port 80. And this is just a port forward. This just says, coming in on the host on port 8545, forward that to port 80 on this container. That's all it's doing. Then we've got the volume that says DB data, and that's that volume we set up above to store our DB data. So that's the only thing that we have to really have set up in here, and everything else should be good. So once you've got that, you're going to save this thing with Control O, and just make sure that it says dockercompose.yaml, then hit enter. Then you can exit from this with Control X, and you'll be ready to run this thing and get UVDesk up and running for yourself. So I'm going to jump in and change those passwords real quick and that username, and then we will get this thing running. Alright, assuming that I got everything correct when I made those changes, we're just going to run docker compose up -d like David. And we're going to let that go out and pull down UVDesk and the DB, which is MySQL. So you see it's pulling down MySQL first, which is great. We want MySQL to be up and running whenever UVDesk gets down and tries to come up and running. So it did MySQL. Now it's pulling down UVDesk. This may just be one big image. No, it's got several. So it says that one already exists. There we go, not too much, yeah. So just a couple of images there. It says it's coming up and it's done, so we're just going to do docker-compose logs-f, like this. That's going to throw us into the docker compose logs. We can kind of watch what's happening here and see if everything looks like it's going to come up and running. It says right now that /var/run/MySQLd is accessible to all OS users, but that means the OS inside of the container, which is okay. Nothing we need to worry about right now. So I think everything is probably up and running, so we can just Control-C out of those logs. We'll clear that, and what we're going to do, we're going to come up into our browser here, and we're going to type in our address, and that was 8545. And there we go. So we've got UVDesk up and running. Now I'm going to zoom this up a little for you guys. And it says, let's begin. Welcome to the Help Desk Install Wizard. The wizard will help to guide in setting up the UVDesk Community Edition on your system. So it says just make sure you're running this on a prerequisite OS, which we should be, no problem. So we're just going to say, let's begin. It's going to run through the checks. It's going to say, hey, everything here looks good. And if it doesn't, something went horribly wrong. So you may need to just stop and kind of check that. But it should say fine. Checks everywhere. We're going to say proceed. It's going to ask us about the server. Now, this is an important step. This is not going to work. Localhost is incorrect. So we're going to go over here to Portainer. And I've got Portainer open. If you're not using Portainer, there's other ways to get your server address, but I love Portainer. And if you haven't seen my video on Portainer, it is a graphical user interface for interacting with Docker, and it's tremendous. So we're going to go in here, and we're just going to look for UVDesk, which is UVDesk and UVDesk 1, and then there should be UVDesk DB1, and this is UVDesk _DB_1. That's the information that we want. So we're going to use that, and we're going to type that in as UVDesk _DB_1. That's on port 3306. The reason we can do this is because these get set up on the same exact container network, the same Docker network, so that's great. We can use this and we can set this up. Username root, we did use username root, but we're not going to use that one. We're going to use the one we set up. So we're going to say UVDesk, or actually in my case I said Brian, and I'm going to type in my user's password, and the database was UVDesk. So it's kind of double checking to make sure we've got everything good as we go forward. And it's going to say automatically create the database if it doesn't exist. So we're going to say proceed. I'm going to tell it don't save. And here it says create a super admin account. Great. So I'm going to create Brian. And I'm going to use my Fixit Del Rio email. And I'm going to create a strong password here. And we're going to hit, it's going to check to make sure your passwords match. And we're going to hit proceed. Finally, website configuration. So member panel prefix. So this is for your agents basically. So you might call this agent. Customer, I would just leave as customer unless you have another reason to call it something different, and hit proceed. Finally, you're going to hit install now. Now this might take a minute, so just be patient. As I recall, it stayed on 1 and never really kind of stepped through these things. But there it goes. It went pretty fast. Great. So we're done. Now, that's everything kind of up and running out of the gate. So it tells you it's been installed successfully. Visit your admin panel and the knowledge base. So I'm just going to say admin panel. And I want you to look at this. So this is using that agent piece that I just typed in. Had I left that as member, it would say member right here. So if you want to get to this login, you might remember that you need to go to /en/agent/login. But we'll look at some other ways to do this, but just in case. So we're just going to use that email address that I created and my password. And I'll say keep me logged in. That's fine. I'm going to say don't save for now. And you see, here we are. We are right at the same exact setup dashboard that we had earlier. So there's a few things that we can go through and kind of get done here. We talked about that earlier. So first thing is branding. I don't have anything really for branding assets, but we do have branding options here. So theme and color, we can change this. We can make this a little bit darker, maybe. Yeah, I like that. And support center, we could change that to whatever we want, but that's fine. Save changes. And you see everything got a little bit darker, just like I wanted. Great. We can go to the support center side for the branding. And now we get all of these links. So you can see all of the things that we can do here. We could change all kinds of colors here. We could just go crazy. I don't want to go through all that with you guys. It's pretty tedious to watch somebody else do that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to make you watch me. But you know that you can do it, and that's important. So we're back. And then we can go to our email setup. So there's the email settings. There's email templates. I think mailbox is really the one that we want, but we'll click on email settings first. So support at localhost is not what we want. We want this to be support, and in my case, it's going to be fixitdelrio.com. Yours would be whatever you're going to use. Then this is UVDesk community. This is going to be fixitdelrio support. And then Swift Mailer ID, I don't have. So we're just going to say proceed. And it's going to check two things, and it's going to be okay. Email templates. It's loading. Okay, good. So it loads up the templates. There's the templates. You can go through and change templates, create new templates, whatever you want to do. This is the one that I think is very important. This is the one that we really need to pay attention to. So we're going to click on New Mailbox up here in the upper right. And it says Mailbox ID, leave blank to automatically create. So I'll just leave it blank. I don't need to create one. The mailbox name, this is going to be support. Right there, Fix It Del Rio support. That sounds good. Enable the mailbox. Delete from inbox. So I don't want to do that. Because like I said, this is going to be kind of set up like, hey, we're going to check your email for you. So in my case, it is IMAP. And the host is box.fixitdelrio.com. And we'll just call this support at fix. This doesn't actually exist, so just be aware of that. All right, so we've got that typed in, and then you've got your outgoing mail server, SMTP server. And it says none selected, so we need to set that up. So we're going to come to the Swift mailer. If you remember, we didn't have that a while ago when we were doing some stuff, so we'll go back and edit that. But here we want to select SMTP. We're going to say enable delivery, and we're going to set up the server. And mine is not 465, so make sure you know what port your email is supposed to work on. They have different authentication modes as well, so be aware of that. So we've got our mailer identification set up. We're going to go back to our mailboxes. So now we're going to create our mailbox again, and that's Fix It Del Rio support. That's great. We're going to enable it. It's IMAP, and luckily a lot of this kind of stuff just fills itself out pretty quickly. And now we're set. Everything is set. If you watch, it's loading up there. There we go. We've got our mailbox set up so that we can receive email. We can send email as we need to from the system. So that's how you set up your mailbox settings. Go to your Swift mailer first. Even though it's the last thing on the list, you actually need to go do that first. So if we go back to our email settings, yeah, so it just chose that one by default for us. So now we can just say proceed. There we go. So it should be saved. Everything should be good. All right, so you've got a few things set up there from the email perspective. So prepared messages, this is pretty cool. So I'm going to add one. And you can see here that the name of the prepared message is reboot please. Alright, have you tried turning it off on again? And is it plugged in? There you go. If you haven't seen the IT crowd, you're missing out. But there it is. I love it. So required response is active, or prepared response is active. Sorry. You want to make sure the prepared response is set to active. The groups, default. Teams, again, if you have different groups and teams set up, you'll be able to pick those. and actions. This is mailed to a customer. Ticket generated by customer. This would be the worst action you could ever take for a customer, so just be aware of that. But there you go. You can kind of set, like, when the customer generates a ticket, the first thing he's going to do is send this to them and say, hey, have you tried to do this? Just to save you time. Probably not going to help, but there you go. Add the prepared response, and you can see there it is. So you can add a bunch of these prepared responses, and then your teams can use these things, or certain events can trigger those things, which is great. So saved replies, again, kind of the same thing. You're going to give this thing a name, and you can say reboot tried, and groups, again, default, teams, if you have them, you can do that. Hello, and thank you for your response. All right, so we set up a nice little reply here. It's very simple. It says, have you tried to reboot the server? Sometimes that helps fix things, and if you decide you want to do that, let your users know so you can prepare to do it at the right time. You've got tags. You can add tags that'll basically let you search the tickets and tag the tickets in certain ways and basically get some nice stats off of them. Then you've got ticket types. So this is an important one. So you've got support. So I don't like support. Support is very generic. I like software support. Maybe you have a lot of software products. You might even do like product support hyphen and the product name. So you could say product support hyphen Zamad, right? Use UVDesk to support Zamad. You could do it the other way around as well. User needs support on Zamad. There we go. How's that? And you can just create a bunch of those. So I like to break things down much more than just support. Support doesn't really help me determine what's going on with things, but this kind of thing does. So you can set up a lot of ticket types, and then of course workflows. So they have some workflows already set up, which means customer created, agent created, user forgot password. So let's look at that one. That's a nice general thing. You can do edit over here on the right. You can say user forgot password. Send an email to the user with a link to reset their password, which is correct. You don't want to send them their password in an email. You don't want to try to get their password or anything like that. You should just let them reset the password. It says workflow is active. User forgot password. And then it says you can add an event basically, but you don't need to in this case. Then you've got conditions. So I don't think there's any conditions really set. The condition is they already forgot their password, and that's part of the event. And then you have the action, which is mail to user forgot password. And then you can save that workflow. You can edit that workflow, do whatever you want to. But that's the workflow. So there's a lot of workflows that are already in here set up. You can kind of check out their examples. You can think through what are some workflows that you could use to basically make it simpler and keep your support activity down, so that your agents are able to help people who actually need help and not just work on little things like this. So here's your tickets. And this is your tickets view. So this is kind of the meat and potatoes of a help desk system. This is where you can see what's going on in the system and where you can kind of check out what has to be done. So as you open tickets, they get listed out here, but you can see what's open, what's pending. So you can see these statuses for these tickets, which is pretty nice. And then as you click on things, you can kind of see what's going on. So let's go create a ticket real quick. Let's just create one. Let's create a ticket. And this is like system unresponsive. Hopefully that's not a real email anywhere. And subject. Oh, support. Yeah, let's just do support. Generic. When I run a backup, my Windows machine stops responding. They could add an attachment showing you a picture of the screen, except their machine is not responding, so they can't get a picture of the screen. Create a ticket, and it shouldn't take too long. And there we go. It's going to show up. So let's go back to the tickets interface here. So right here we can see we've got all is one, open is one, and then here's that ticket, and you can kind of see some nice little icons here, and you've got a checkbox to check and do things with it up here. You can filter. So there's some pretty cool stuff as you go through this and kind of check out what's available. So yeah, you get a lot of information right here just on the desktop. And remember, I've got this zoomed in, so the folks on the phones can kind of see this better. So if we zoom this back out, that is at 100% right there. So for you guys with good vision, this should be a pretty nice view for you, hopefully. So I'm going to zoom it back up for the people on the phone. And then we can kind of see down here what's going on. So we can say, like unanswered. And again, so these are filters. So it kind of shows you like, hey, here's the filters. You can see my tickets. So this is for me. So I can just go click on this thing. And then I can give a response, which is pretty nice. So we kind of looked at that earlier. So I can do a reply, but I can do a forward. I can forward this to somebody inside my company. I can just add a note. So this is just a note for me to come back and check out. There we go. We can add that note. We can add an attachment if we want to. And then I can. So this is kind of interesting. So you can say stay on ticket. And then you can say, redirect to the list after we're done. So basically after the reply, I redirect to the list. So I hit reply and I say submit and resolve. So you've got different options here to kind of fix or close. So it's still open. So I'm just going to say submit. So it's going to add that note and it's going to put me back to the list. So I don't stay on that note. I'm going to come back to the list so I can grab other tickets and start taking care of them. So this is really kind of a pretty nice system when you start looking at it and kind of checking out all the options that you have. The knowledge base is pretty great because if you look here, you've got announcements, you've got articles, so you can jump into the articles section and people can check the articles and they can search the articles and sort. And you can basically, especially for your internal staff, point them to those things and tell them, hey, go check this out. Just make sure you understand what you're trying to do for somebody. You've got the categories that you can set up for those things. And then you've got folders, so you can set up folders to basically hold all these documents and all these knowledge base information pieces that you've got, which is great. So this is the admin side of UVDesk, and I think it's pretty great. I think it's got some really cool features to it. I think it's got some really nice stuff. Overall, I mean, not a bad system at all. If your users are willing to go into your website and have logins and create tickets that way, your customers and things like that, I think that's great. If your agents are going to be creating the tickets anyways, it's not going to matter. So that's still awesome. And you can see that the system does email out properly through SMTP because I did have emails set up there that were going out of the system and getting to my email. So pretty great. Overall, I think this is a really great option. It's open source, and of course, it's going to improve over time as the company continues to put out new versions and make those available in the open source world. Using the open source version and giving them feedback and letting them know that you like it and appreciate it is always a good way to keep open source projects going, so let them know that as well. If you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along on the open source journey with us, and I'll talk to you next time.